The ability to keep an audience engaged and intrigued and asking questions throughout and after each episode. Not only that, also getting a satisfying ending. It's pretty remarkable. Congratulations, Netflix. The Haunting of Bly Manor. Now, this is a non-spoiler review, and I'm going to tell you straight off the bat, I'm not a horror fan. They're not really my thing. I mean, there's a couple I like, and there's one horror film I'm still traumatized by to this day.
There you are. Now let's come up with a story.
So the movie's about a girl who gets a job as a nanny. She got to look after 2 kids in this big mansion. And in this mansion, you have a caretaker, a chef, and a gardener. They kept it simple, I guess. You have other characters too, but this is a non-spoiler review, and talking about those characters may spoil it for you. So we're just going to deal with a gardener, the caretaker, the chef, and obviously the nanny and the 2 kids. So from the title, you know you're dealing with a haunted house, obviously, and you have the 2 kids, which is slightly creepy, but they're cute. But that's the thing. They have a way of making you fall in love with these characters. I mean, the writing and the directing of this show is so good that from the first episode, yeah, for real, from the first episode, I was in love with these characters. And there's a thing that really kept me watching is the fact that I always had questions. Now, not the kind of question that have you yelling at the screen and shit like you don't get what's going on, but they were the kind of question you ask yourself when the story is good, that you just can't wait to know more. That's how good the show is. So, first off, you get Danielle. Now, she's the nanny. She gets hired by their uncle, actually. Don't want to go too deep on him because I don't want to spoil the story, but he gives her the job. But already, before she gets to the house, she already has her own demon, which is good in building a character because you thinking you ain't even got to the haunted house yet, but you already haunted by your own ghost. The only thing I had to ask myself is, you heard the last nanny died in that house, and you want to be the next nanny in that house? Like, you don't mind that the person who had your job before died, they killed himself? And I like what they did with the Danielle character. I like the fact that she has her own demons to deal with before she gets to the house. It gives it a bit more substance. I really like the Danielle character. Eventually she gets to the house, and that's when you meet Hannah Gross, the caretaker, and Owen, the chef. Now, from the minute you see Hannah Gross, you know something's wrong. You can tell. Now, while I was watching it, I thought to myself, you know what? She's probably ill. Because you find out that Owen's mother is ill. She has dementia. So I thought, you know what? Some of the time you see Hannah, the caretaker, she's like spaced out a bit. She's not quite there. So you be thinking, you know, she has dementia. She's also ill. Hence why she gets really close to Owen, you know. But at the same time, she does other things, which I won't mention because I don't want to spoil it for you. She does other things that really make you think there's something wrong with her. And once again, I love the way they did the Hannah Gross character. And then you have the gardener. There's not much to say about the gardener. Oh, I could, but I don't really want to spoil it. But all I could say is that her and Owen are the only one who are still down to earth, should I say. I mean, they're all down to earth, but I'm going to say that her and Owen are pretty much still normal. They have their own problem, like Owen, his mother's ill, and the gardener, she had her own crazy problems before that she's getting over, but they kind of like the contrast between the other characters, like the caretaker, the nanny, and the kids. They kind of the contrast because they're pretty normal, if that makes sense. Now, you see, I had no idea what this was about before I pressed play, which is usually the case when it comes to Netflix original, right? But I was expecting jump scares, and I was expecting stupid deaths and, you know what I mean, dumbed down dialogue, you know, just... But I was pretty surprised. I mean, the horror element, or should I say the ghost element, it's done pretty well. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's anything like it. I mean, picture this. There's 9 episodes, and I think the first jump scare is like in the 4th or 5th episode. It's scary. Wasn't that scary to me, but I can see how it may be scary to other people, but it's so subtle. Like, there's one thing I really like, and you can see that in the earlier episode. It's the little girl, Flora, speaking to Danielle, the nanny. And every time she's speaking to her, she kind of looks to the side of her for approval. So we, the audience, think, is there a ghost there? And I don't know what Danielle's thinking, because she ain't even asking. I mean, if that was me, I'd be like, what you looking at? Throughout, like, the first few episodes, the kids keep doing things sort of like they're looking for approval from someone else. And I ain't gonna lie, that is creepy as hell, but I love it. I just don't understand how you can talk to someone, and especially a kid, and they look behind you, they look through you behind you, and you don't ask them what's going on. She does it several times. Overall, I was really impressed at the way they handled the ghost in this show. I mean, I think... Hold on, bear with me. Look. I think they took a more realistic approach on Ghost when it comes to this show. Now I know what you're gonna say, hey, ghosts don't exist, what you mean realistic? No, but it's like, matter of fact, from the 5th episode, most of the story is told through the point of view of the ghost. And it's crazy because you get to experience what it could be like to be stuck in limbo, stuck in a loop, or stuck in your own memories. I mean, it's stuff you read about, you know what I mean? I read about, life after death stuff and all that. So basically what I'm saying is the way the show handled the ghost is different. I wasn't expecting that. It's not something I've witnessed before in cinema or TV shows before. Another thing is the show uses a lot of flashback to tell a story. And I have a problem with flashbacks. I mean, sometimes flashbacks for me ruin the movies. I'm not saying don't use flashback in movies and I don't like that. It's just me. It's like I watch a movie like Man of Steel, which is told mainly with flashback. Kind of annoyed. If I'm enjoying a movie and all of a sudden there's a flashback, it better be good and it better serve the story well. That's basically what I'm saying. But in this movie you have a whole episode which is just a flashback. Matter of fact, you got several flashbacks within some episodes, but one episode is just a flashback. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh, come on, man. Please stop explaining shit. You know how it is. Sometimes you want some stuff to remain a mystery. But at some point I was like, wait, hold on. This flashback is actually connecting all the dots. And you know when you get those oh moments? You know the moments you're like, oh. See those kind of moments? It's all of that throughout that flashback episode. And I don't think I've ever enjoyed a flashback like that before. Here's a drinking game. Every time I say flashback, take a shot. But during this flashback, you get to find out a lot. As if that flashback could have easily been the first episode. It was that good. But that was the 8th episode. The last episode was the 9th. And this is the only problem I have with this show. Is that by the time you get to the 9th episode, it's a little confusing. And what I'm saying is because eventually you find out everything. You know about every ghost and everything. And then there's the main ghost, which is the woman in the lake. And she has a clear motive. But by the 8th episode, they tell you that she's losing her memory. She no longer has clear memory. She even does something that proves she doesn't really have her memory. Which leads me to think that by the end of the show, she doesn't really have clear motive anymore. Why is she doing what she's doing? I'm not saying it's bad, because the ending is awesome. It's really good. But it was that part, Why is the ghost doing what it's doing? There's no more clear motive. I understand it. I see what Daniel did and everything. I get how it all gets together. But there's no more clear motive because you don't have your memories anymore. I wish I could say more, but I don't want to spoil it for you guys, so...
I have a story. A ghost story.
So, is it scary? For some, it might be. Is it creepy? Hell yeah. Either way, it's gonna have you engaged. It's gonna have you asking questions all the time. The acting is awesome. Surprisingly awesome, especially for the child actors. Usually I'm not a fan of child actors, but those two, man, awesome. And overall, I just want to say it's a well-crafted story with layers and layers and layers. And at the end, it leaves you with a satisfying payoff. It's not much more to ask for. And you see in the show at the end, someone says, it's not a ghost story, it's a love story. Which is true. You see when you watch it. But if you ask me, it's the story of the dead. Pretty much. Well told, too. I was going to say it's a dead story, but then people might think, it's a shit story. But no, it's the story of the dead. And before I rate this movie, I'm just going to say, if you do watch the show, which I really think you should, keep an eye open. There's a lot of ghost Easter eggs and ghost in every scene, and ghost in every scene, hiding in the corners and all that. Some I noticed myself because, as a filmmaker, I always like to analyze shots and camera movement, so I noticed a few things. But when you do watch it, just pay attention. Especially if you're watching it with someone else, because you'd be like, yo, did you see that? Did you miss that? Because trust me, there's a lot of Easter egg to notice. You're going to have fun with that. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you'd know that I hate rating movies. It's just something I need to do. But this time, I have little Flora to rate the show for me.
Perfectly splendid.
So you're not even gonna say thanks for watching. Guys, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, and yeah. Now was that so fucking hard?